Hello?
Yeah.
Good morning, guys. Welcome to the good ground.
This doesn't look like a market garden. Where are we?
Kind of not a great location for our garden this year. We should have listened to the masterclass better. Ta-da! I see some weeds. Yeah, so let's quickly get this because we don't have weeds in our garden. It's really cool to see the pigs in the forest. It's where they're supposed to be, and it shows. Once I took the control board off and ripped all the wires, I'm like, it better work now. You hear all the time, oh, you learn from your mistakes, you learn from your mistakes, and then you don't really realize how powerful that can be until you make those mistakes and you learn from them. It's been the hardest mental transition for me because I'm a bit of a perfectionist, so I want to do things right the first time. But you got to give yourself time to grow and learn and everything else.
Hi everybody! Today we're in Beamsville, Ontario, and we're visiting the good ground. How are you, Mike?
Good, how are you?
I'm very good. Thank you very much for hosting us.
Thanks for coming here.
But this doesn't look like a market garden. Where are we?
Sure. So I got my start in agriculture in poultry. You can see the poultry barns behind us. My dad has been in poultry for a number of years, so I got my start through him. As I was raising chickens and doing it all the conventional way, raising thousands of birds in a barn, I love reading, and I stumbled across Joel Salatin. I read a couple of his books, and that like totally changed my mind about agriculture. I had never even understood that there was a possibility of doing agriculture different. Reading Joel Salatin, it opened my eyes to just that possibility. And in some of his books, he kind of gives a lot of different ideas. So that was a really interesting start for me. From there, our first kind of getting our feet wet, we bought 6 piglets and we decided to raise them in the backyard. Totally different than how normal pigs are raised. And we said, okay, if we like it, if we like doing this, if we like the meat quality at the end of this year, it's worth pursuing. If we don't like it, if we don't think it's worth it, we'll just stop.
And how was it?
It was amazing. We loved it. We sold meat to friends and family.
That's crazy.
And they all loved it. So we were like, hey, this is something worth doing. So we gradually raised more and more pigs, and our customers kept growing, just word of mouth every year.
Yep.
People were excited.
Yep.
And then at one point, I wasn't really actually planning to get into market gardening very quickly, but a young guy from my church actually, who just loves growing things, he I think when he was 12 years old or something, he was growing his own corn, right? Just because he loves to grow plants. He came to me one day and said, hey Mike, is there something I can do for you?
Yep.
Is there something like, can I work for you somehow? I was like, you like to grow things? Start a garden for me. If you were going to grow vegetables and sell them, do that, just do it for me. So that was kind of our first start, and that was just a couple years ago.
Wow.
And it was very much, the way he did it was very kind of backyard garden-ish,
yep.
Right? Just single rows of plants, and he did a very good job. And at that point we had just a stand at the end of our driveway. We didn't sell very much. We're in pretty heavy farm country where a lot of people grow their own vegetables, and it's a fairly fast road, so we didn't sell very much. But it just kind of opened my eyes to just the possibility of selling vegetables.
Of course.
Right? Which was super cool.
And when we talked for the first time, you told me that like in this kind of in the chicken industry, you don't really meet the customers.
Right.
And then you were like, that's something I wanted to try.
Yeah, absolutely.
And how does it went?
So it just what you're talking about there, it kind of opened my eyes when I started making the transition.
Yeah.
In the chicken industry, I'm selling say 10,000 or 15,000 birds at a time to one person.
Yep.
Right? So you don't actually meet the people who are eating the chicken for dinner.
Yep.
But when I started raising the pigs, when I started growing vegetables, you actually get to meet the people who are eating that food. And when they come back to you and say, that food was amazing, it's so delicious, it tastes so good, it's like, man, it's amazing to be able to do that for other people, right? That feeling, it's just, it was something I honestly hadn't experienced before, right? So those things kind of showed me that doing this, pursuing sort of local, sustainable, if we want to throw a buzzword in there, high quality food is worth it.
Absolutely.
So I've become quite passionate about it. I've become quite excited.
And you also, because you have a big family.
Yes.
You have 4 kids.
Yeah, 4 kids.
4 little boys.
Yeah.
And you tell me that you wanted to include them in your vision.
Yeah.
Of course, but how do you see that?
So, we want to grow an appreciation in our children for doing good work. Really, that's where it kind of all starts, right? Doing high quality work, and a market garden or raising small amounts of livestock, carefully managed. You see the results of your work. You see the benefit of putting in the time, of putting in the extra effort, because at the end of the day, that food ends up on your plate and you're like, wow, this is really good.
Absolutely.
Right? This is better than the pork I buy at the grocery store. This is better than the carrots that I see in the grocery store display, right? So it's really cool because my oldest is just turning 6 in a couple months. It's so cool to see them get excited about vegetables as well, right? So we've got our own little family.
I mean, that's unique.
It is unique, I know.
It's unique.
We've got our own little family garden. They could each pick their own vegetable to grow this year, and my wife helped them with that. That was their space. And one of my sons, he's 4 years old. He picked radishes. Which 4-year-old likes radish? But just, it was about a week ago, we harvested his radishes and he was so excited. My wife sliced them up, put them in a salad, and I don't know if he actually liked it or if he was putting it on.
He was like, it's really good.
Yeah, oh, he loved it. And he just loved the whole idea, right? So seeing that passion for growing things develop in my sons is so exciting. I love it.
That's beautiful. So, you ready?
Yeah.
Okay, let's do this.
Let's head over to the garden where you'll meet Josh and he'll explain a little bit more about the garden.
Amazing. Hey Josh!
Hey, how's it going?
How are you, man?
Oh, living the dream. How are you?
Weeding the beans.
Yeah,
Is that your dream, Josh?
The beans.
So, can you show us around?
Yeah, totally. Welcome to the good ground. This is the garden. We picked kind of not a great location for our garden this year. We should have listened to the masterclass better. But yeah, we have, it's probably less than a quarter acre, or eighth of an acre of a garden.
Sixth of an acre.
Sixth of an acre of a garden. So not huge, but it feels like quite a bit for us.
And
we picked 10 veggies
Yeah.
to grow this year. Last year we did 30 and we were lost and we didn't know what we were doing. So we picked 10 to focus on. We got beans, lettuce mix, carrots, Swiss chard, tomatoes in the hoop house, globe and cherry, and then we have one row of peppers as well. And yeah, we got some peppers outside as well. We have beets. We had onions, but they're all gone because people love their fresh onions. We have more planted over there. We have our seed starting little put together. It's not great.
Yep.
And then leek as well. I think that's all 10.
That was the
I didn't
10,
count,
yeah.
but
And Josh, how did you get into farming?
yeah, I wasn't. I never saw myself as a farmer for sure, and I took environmental science at Redeemer University, and in my fourth year, as part of my program, I had to go to Washington State for a hands-on learning experience, and I took 2 courses there: alpine ecology, which was amazing, just hiked mountains in the Washington State, so the Olympic National Park. Yeah, I learned bird calls, whatever. But then the other course was ecological agriculture. And we basically toured around different farms doing similar to this, market gardeners. Some of them were like into fruit. They specialized in different stuff. And the farmers that would give us the tours were so passionate about what they were doing. It was incredible. And I was like, what on earth is wrong with these guys? Like, they like their job. So I got to try this out. And I got behind the whole philosophy of ecological agriculture, which was the idea to mimic what nature has to offer in terms of its relationships and kind of biodiversity as a whole background to deal with pests and resiliency, etc. And then the small scale sell to real people and not big businesses was really attractive. And it was honestly the farmers that loved their job. I was like, I need to figure this out. So
that's a good way to find your job in life.
Totally.
Find your purpose.
And then Mike, who was my older brother, was kind of friends with Mike, and then he let me know that Mike kind of wanted to start up something similar, and I'm like, I called you while I was in BC as a ski bum. It's like, hey, I hear you're going to start up some fun farming. And
how did you react? Because it was like, yeah, sure, man.
So they're actually like kind of long-term family friends at this point. So I had worked with Josh in a previous job a few years ago, and my wife knew their family and everything else. So I was kind of like, I was expecting the call. I had hung out with his brother.
Yeah, we chatted once before. It wasn't just straight up cold call.
That's right. And then, Josh had his job interview sitting in a chalet at a ski resort. I just came
back from skiing. I had to stop.
And I was sitting in my garage on the phone, and like we chatted for, I don't know how long that phone call was, probably about an hour.
Yeah. No,
we ended the phone call because Josh wanted to get back out on the slopes. How's that for a job interview, right?
Yeah, he was like my least important.
You're really about commitment. You're about that. Yeah, just gonna the pause right now.
But kind of what came out of that, Josh decided, hey, in a couple months, it was a couple months at that point, I want to start working for you.
It was, I think, February or March, and then we drove back across Canada.
Yeah.
And then I started basically, I think...
In June.
No, started May. May 1st was my start date.
2022, I think?
2 and a bit years ago.
Yeah, that's right. So it would have been 2022. And at that point, I kind of said to Josh, hey, Josh, I still got to take care of the chickens. I want you to sort of spearhead whatever we're going into with regenerative or ecological agriculture. Because that's what he wanted to do. So I didn't want to take that role away from him.
And I was an expert after taking a course.
I'll definitely say we've learned a lot as we've gone. As we've moved away from chickens and moved into regenerative or ecological agriculture, Josh has kind of solidified his role as leading the garden, and I've solidified my role as still livestock, but instead of chickens in barns, we're doing pigs in the forest, and we're going to get into grass-fed beef. So we each have our own role. I think we probably know enough of each other's roles to be able to step in when necessary.
Yeah, totally.
But Josh is definitely
still small enough.
Definitely leading the garden.
And I like how you manage your transition, because that's also a big challenge.
You're right. Yeah.
Because you're specialized in something, and this whole transition, how did you manage to do it?
Not easy.
It wasn't easy. It was just a ton of work, because doing chickens in a barn conventionally it's basically an opposite mindset to what we're trying to do here, right? So I really had to walk both sides of that mindset while I was doing it. And it made a lot of sense to get Josh to kind of take care of that stuff and develop his own understanding of it, while I kept the chickens going and worked on shutting down that business. And kind of as we went, I could gradually increase my own understanding and mindset into the regenerative aspect as we slowed down the conventional. It wasn't easy. The past couple of years have been challenging for sure, but I like the direction we're going in.
Yeah, well, even just to find the time to what's valuable right now.
Right.
You got to still spend time with chickens. But.
Yeah, I'm still active in chickens. I have to take care of them, of course. They're big it's kind of big number contracts, everything else like that. So a decent amount of my time is focused on that. But Josh gets to be out here.
But Mike's been nice. Initially, like I showed up and I thought I would just be doing research. So I was like dressed up, whatever. And Mike looks at me like, what are you doing? Should you bring some work clothes? Because I was like, I'm from university and I know what I'm doing, whatever. But so I was in chickens. Like I did a lot of the work in chickens to start.
Initially, yeah.
But like even the second year when we started up like the garden legit to try and sell, because that's when we started doing markets last year, you took the L and dealt with more of the chickens.
Yeah.
And then I got to spend more time outside.
That's right. So last year,
the fun stuff.
Last year, Josh was basically full-time in the garden, and our garden setup last year was nothing compared to what it is this year. But last year was an important transition year too. So I guess with the transition, the biggest thing that I can say is like, just one step at a time. Last year, like our actual, what we grew and our actual growing method was nothing compared to this, but last year we got to market, right?
Yeah,
we had our first market days.
Huge for us.
Which was amazing.
It was daunting to be like, we're going to start selling our own veggies.
Yeah.
But now it's like
we show up at a market and it's like, I can load up and get ready for market in like half an hour and I'm good to go. No problem, right? No issues. And then this year this past winter was like, okay, we're doing this. Let's focus our research on how to grow veggies. And that's when we took the masterclass. And
last winter.
We really dove hard into it. So this is really our first year being like, okay, we're doing a market garden. We're gonna hit as many market days as possible. We're gonna have the best produce that we can grow. We're gonna try to have this high standard. We're gonna see what we can do. And we did, like, the masterclass was definitely essential to that. We learned a ton. As we go through the garden, as Josh shows you the garden, we have not implemented anywhere close to what the masterclass covers because there's such a wealth of information there. But we've done our best. Yeah, exactly. It's just that next step. And next year we're already seeing the steps that we can make next year. So just very gradual improvements, making progress over time, and if like where we are now, if I look back to where we were 2 years ago, it's like, whoa, we're in a completely different spot. And it's a very exciting place to be, right? And then I can see the progress that we're hoping to make over the next couple of years too. And it's just living in that moment is a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's been hilarious. Every time we kind of skipped over, because we have our crop guides in the shed now. We printed them out.
Yeah.
Or the barn. It's kind of a huge shed. But every time we kind of, like, I didn't focus on it, I was like, we'll just plant in the stale seed bed, maybe wait like a week or so, and then we'll have enough weeds. And it was rough. So Mike kind of like, hey, Josh, focus on like reading through the instructions before you do it. And it's helped, to be honest. Like the experience in there, it's been great. So. And
then like I'll say this is really our first year doing a market garden intentionally, and it's so awesome to have the success. I think the biggest success of this year is our lettuce. We go to market and people come to us to buy lettuce. And
totally.
Like, I didn't come into this thinking, we're gonna grow amazing lettuce, but we have this lettuce and people love it, and it's like, there's a real market here.
But that was also our worst crop.
It was our worst crop initially.
That is so nice.
Yeah, because we started off with just a whole mesclun mix of
with
seed.
Probably 5 or 6 different varieties.
And then I just took the Jang and went like 10, 12 passes through. After we didn't do a proper stale seed bed, we didn't have a flame weeder then, so that was a bit of an issue. But we did like a tarp, and then I guess I counted on the tarp to do a better job.
Yeah.
But we BCS'd, tried to do 2 inches, and then seeded into that, thinking that all the seeds had germinated, but they hadn't. And with more soil disturbance from the BCS.
All the weeds.
All the weeds came up at the same time as the mesclun. And we chose to save one bed to pick weeds through, and it took, we maybe had like 2 or 3 bags of lettuce.
Oh, it took ages.
It took
4
ages
or 5
hours to get there, because you don't want weeds in there. No. But the other issue is we're not experts in what we planted. Like I looked at the mix and I'm like, what is all in here? So we're picking through and we don't know what's weed and what's lettuce. So that's why we simplified. We couldn't tell. Like even we had some people over there like, that's a weed in the bag. I'm like, oh. Thanks. Thanks for letting us know.
Mustard. It's
But
mustard.
it's probably edible, so. But that's why we kind of switched to just two varieties, a red leaf and a green leaf, so we could know what was weed and what was our lettuce that we planted.
Yeah.
And then we waited the full 2 weeks to let the seeds, like we would BCS, wait 2 weeks, let the weeds germinate, and then seed in there, and then right before they germinate, kind of exactly how JM has it put in the book. I didn't read the amount of time.
And then we'd flame weed, and like our crops have been really good since. But it's just making that step from, I vividly remember just essentially harvesting a 50-foot bed of mesclun mix, dumping it all, tilling that bed under, because it was too full of weeds. We couldn't harvest it.
Yeah, we gave up on carrots too.
To, I don't know, 6 weeks later, 8 weeks later, having the lettuce that everyone wants. And it's like, whoa, this is amazing. This is crazy.
Yeah.
Right?
But failure, that's another big thing.
That's what you learn.
There's
There's
been loads of mistakes made this season already, but it's so like, you hear all the time, oh, you learn from your mistakes, and then you don't really realize how powerful that can be until you make those mistakes and you learn from them. And it's like, okay, this season we've learned so much because we've made mistakes.
But if you're in the middle of a failure, it's not a great
it's not a great spot to be.
Exactly. But that's the beautiful thing. There's always next season.
Exactly.
There's going to be a next season.
Well, actually, another point to that is that if you have a diversified garden, if you're not doing a monoculture, if you fail your monoculture, your corn crop, you're cooked, right?
Yeah.
Where we were still selling veggies at market, of
course,
because we had we only have 10. We should maybe get to 30, but
we're
going to start off simple and learn.
No, of course.
But we didn't notice it that much because we have other veggies. So
absolutely.
Biodiversity.
So where do we start now? Because I want to see everything.
We should probably start with talking about why we didn't choose, or why we should move the garden plot, because that's where you start your garden is very important.
Yeah.
And it does talk about that in the masterclass, also in the book. What's the book called?
The Market Gardener.
Market Gardener. Easy. But the biggest issue for us this whole year has been drainage. Yeah. Because we have clay, pretty heavy clay soil, and we have a bit of a low spot. You can see if you pan the camera this way. When it rains quite a bit, we have had a lot of rain as well, but it turns into a bit of a puddle, and then most crops I would say love good drainage. Yep. The advantage of clay is it holds all its nutrients, so that's great. But then we try and broad fork and whatever, but you can't. This is you can't deal with puddling. So we were supposed to be growing up to this line here, and nothing's growing. And this has been, you can see that the difference pretty obvious where the carrots above here, that's the growth that you should expect versus this, and they're half the size or so. Yeah. So lesson learned, find probably a high spot with at least good drainage. The advantage is that you can over the years add more compost, and then you'll get better drainage, and then proper broad forking. Don't till too much for compaction. But
given our context, so last year it was okay, we're going to tarp off 1/6 of an acre so that we have a relatively clean place to start. We didn't really know what was under this. It was just essentially pasture. We mowed the pasture, put big tarps down, which were effective for what they were supposed to do. It worked, but we didn't realize that this was going to be here, right? So selecting your garden site is pretty important, and understanding how your land might look at different times of the year. Is there water pooling in the spring? Hey, that's something that's pretty good to know. If you show up in the fall, you might not know that. That's what we did last year.
But the other thing is raised beds. We learned that if you're in clay especially, it's almost a must to do raised beds, because that also helps with the drainage immediately. And we have found anywhere that dries up quicker and is a higher spot has grown
much better.
2-3-fold what it was on the other spots, the low spots.
Yeah, that's right.
But I guess we could start with our favorite crop that we've figured out, the lettuce. Our favorite. Wow. Ta-da!
I see some weeds.
Yeah, so let's quickly get this because we don't have weeds in our garden. But yeah, so our lettuce has changed quite a bit over the growing season. Like if you go here, we just direct seeded this, and it worked out quite well, to be honest. But to add a little bit of competition, get an extra 3 weeks against the weeds, the transplants do a lot better. I transplanted these 2 weeks ago, and they've already like filled out quite a bit, and the amount of weeds we have right now is pretty minimal.
That just makes for easier harvesting too. So,
but it also looks so beautiful, and the reason you can see this is another failure. This bed, I planted enough in the seed trays that we'll show you later, enough to fill the whole bed, and then we got 50% germination, and I have no idea why, because the next ones are like 98% germination.
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
But it happens, I guess. You can see we used the dibbler to mark. There's just markings of where I thought I was going to plant, but we didn't have enough. But yeah, then we have like Swiss chard here. I don't know what happened to it. It didn't grow in the...
Oh, these are our chard transplants.
Yeah, they're tiny.
Yikes.
They're tiny. But I think they'll survive, but they've been growing for a month and in the trays, and I think they were waterlogged. So
yeah,
yeah, and they're not. They were like, these are a month old already, and there's nothing. And I think it was the drainage for the in the
yeah,
trays.
One of our things that we did this year to kind of just get us a start, so we didn't have to figure everything out in the first year, was we sourced our transplants from someone else, and they were kind of a local backyard business doing these transplants. They did an excellent job. They're super easy to work with.
Yeah.
But the challenge was, as the season progressed, they started to have family challenges and whatnot, sort of unavoidable stuff, which was really sad. And she just couldn't focus on the transplants anymore. So one of the things that we're going to work on for next year is doing our own transplants, so we have control of that process as well too.
Yeah, which is pretty important, because then you know the timing as well. Because we would get our transplants, so we didn't actually know how old they were.
Right.
And we write everything down and to see so we can do a proper crop planning for next year.
Yep.
But if we don't know how old our transplants are, then it's pretty tough to figure that balance.
Pretty important piece of information.
But yeah, we got just a freshly transplanted bed here. Those guys got full germination, so we filled out the bed, which is nice. We're in the middle of harvesting our carrot bed. Carrots have been great this year. I would say we did till the first 2 beds in because of the weeds, but as the year kind of goes on, less weed pressure and proper stale seed bed. Wait your 2 weeks, flame, and then you can plant, and then you got carrots like that, which is pretty cool.
Beautiful.
We also have like our irrigation system is from Dubois, so we did the classic.
Yeah.
Although probably for next year we'll think about a hybrid of drip tape as well as the sprinklers. Yeah. Because some crops don't like it. Like beets, in the early season we had a bit of fungus from just the moisture, but it went away. So.
And our beans too do not like the moisture of the sprinklers. And we've had so much rain this season that the beans aren't doing well anyways. But we have sprinklers on our beans, and they don't like that moisture either. So we're gonna little adjustments like that really, you kind of gotta do stuff to learn those things, right?
Yeah, but we have these are sitting here. They're kind of useless right now, but we were trying to figure out which bugs we had and pests. So they go on here, but now it's full of dirt and bugs. But earlier on in the season, we had tons of different bugs. All the common pests, like the Swiss chard was getting eaten by 5 or 6 of the classics, like the flea beetle and etc.
But it's these challenges,
slugs,
flea beetles,
snails.
all those things forced us to be like we have now 3 books on garden pests.
Yeah.
And it forced us to be like, okay, we have to identify this and we have to figure out, okay, should we do something about it? Should we leave it? What's its life cycle? All those things, right? And these problems, which are challenges, and in the moment it's like, oh no, what do we do about this? But it just forces you to grow, and you take a sort of a measured approach to it, and you grow through it. And now, like, we come in the garden and it's like, oh yeah, I know that bug, I know that bug.
Oh, it's crazy how quick you learn.
Exactly.
Yeah. But then if you study, like a key thing for us, or an enlightening moment, was to learn the pests, like specifically, and the weeds. Like learn the weeds, then you know how to work around them.
Yeah.
Like even like learning that the lamb's quarter you can eat. It's like, oh, maybe we can leave a few in our mesclun mix. We don't have it anymore, but.
Can we sit there?
Yeah, totally.
Our tool shed.
Yeah, the tool shed.
The armory.
That's a nice tool shed.
It's massive. Okay, welcome to the armory, where we kill weeds.
That's a nice shed.
So this is a converted poultry barn. As we're getting out of chickens, of course we have empty barn space, and it was just the easiest way to store tools rather than building something else. So
yeah, it worked perfect because there's a little door hatch.
Little
right
door,
there.
yeah.
But yeah, we have all the tools. This is our beautiful flame weeder. We got some hose on that side, the tine weeder, the dibbler, which we use to mark beds. We actually haven't figured out this guy yet, the 4-row seeder, just because our soil is not quite perfect for that. Just like the hard clay and choppiness. But then yeah, the wheel hoe, definitely worth it. It's amazing.
Yeah,
everything.
We were questioning that purchase initially.
Yeah.
Because it's a bit of a pricey piece of equipment, but we use it all the time now.
Flame weeder's worth it too. That's also pricey. We use the Jang for, carrots mainly now because we're doing transplants for almost everything else.
Yeah.
But
What are you using the double wheel hoe on? What are some of the tasks?
Mainly the walkways in between. There's not really anything else
But then, we were using
through the beans sometimes too.
And then we were using the double disc on the leeks and the onions.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah. Onions and leeks worked quite well with the double disc.
Yeah.
Carrots I think we're just a little bit scared because we don't want to hurt our carrots.
We don't want to run anything over.
The double disc. But then we have some like fun little hand tools that we got our trowels. These guys are pretty helpful, but you don't want to be using these too much because that means your weeds have gotten out of hand if you're hand weeding everything. So try to avoid that. This is like, here's our binders. So this is where we keep all of the information. This is where we get nerdy. We test the moisture every morning, so we know if we need to water or not, and then the soil temperature, kind of to track germination and to see how things are growing. We kind of planned out when we want to prep all the beds, but we've recently or since changed a lot of stuff just because of different failures and learning. So these guys are kind of useless, but then we have been quite religious about putting in all the information about the temperature for the day, how much water we got, or rain we got, and then whether we should water it or not. Here's our moisture and whatever, but then we also have individual crop information sheets. So we put down the vegetable that we've planted, like the spacing, which we just copy from the masterclass for that specific veggie, the soil temperature, the seeding date, and then we keep track of challenges, so pests, diseases, and weather, and then what we use to treat it. So the lettuce, we didn't actually do anything because it was perfect. And then we calculate, we got this from the masterclass too. It was brilliant to weigh how much seed went into that bed so that you know if the Jang was putting enough or not. And then we calculate harvest on these sheets as well. So we just had germination of carrots that I seeded, and then I put that in. So then we know that it took 5 days in this temperature versus 4 days in the heat of the summer, etc. So that's our big book. And then we also have all the crop guides in this one. So before I'm gonna seed, I take a look at this, or before I transplant, and then before harvest as well, so we can try and streamline stuff. So we only pick 10 crops, so then we have the 10 crops that we picked in there. And that's been really helpful.
Just a note on kind of how we've decided to, how we've decided to grow. I talked to an advisor late last year, and he advised me just start slow. So he said, if you have not grown vegetables, pick 10. Just pick the 10 you're most interested in. And he said, do it small scale, figure out those vegetables first. Because if you pick 25 or 30 right away,
it's a good puzzle.
It's a puzzle, and you're not going to have the time or the mental energy to figure everything out at once. So he said, start with 10, figure those 10 out. There's going to be 1 or 2 that you probably don't really want to grow again, or that don't work for you. Feel free to get rid of those. And then next year, add another 5. And then in 4 or 5 years, you're up to something like 30 vegetables. And if you're expanding your production at the same time, after 5 years, we hope to be cultivating an acre and growing 30 or 35 different vegetables and have the full sort of market gardener spread.
With CSA.
But it's just, it's one step at a time. Be content to take your time developing the farm.
Absolutely.
And that's been a huge, it's forced me to make a mental shift because I like to see results quickly. I think.
Well, and you get so excited. We got 100 acres, like what can we do?
Yeah.
But if you do it all, let's 100 acres of...
Let's do 5 acres of vegetables. Wait, I don't know anything about growing vegetables.
And it's crazy because I see also a lot of experienced market gardeners, they've been doing this for 10 years.
Yeah.
And they're like, I had like this huge project at some point. After 5 years, I was like 10 employees, it was big. And now I like to go back to a small patch.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, that's interesting. I mean, you're super experienced. It's like, exactly.
Yeah.
So now I can like be super experienced on a really small patch, and it's gonna be.
But if you're gonna put the time in, like the quality is what you're gonna try and get out of. Like that's the biggest difference between our veggies versus if we're at market and it's just like a commercial grower.
Yeah.
It's the quality and the taste, and you can't get that if you're just doing 5 acres on your own. So
the other thing, it's worth the time to make things beautiful. People are attracted to beauty. So our market display, we always make sure vegetables are washed. Like our carrots, we want that orange of the carrots to just pop, right? And then we always make a big pile because people are attracted to like sort of the idea of beautiful abundance, right? So we've been really trying to focus on that with how we sell our vegetables too, and it seems to be working.
Well, the pile high, watch it fly, it works.
Yeah.
The first year we went to market, which was last year, we wanted to keep everything fresh. So we kept it in the coolers and we would just show a little bit. We sold like nothing.
Yeah, it didn't sell.
Right? People are like, do you have any more of this? We're like, yeah. But it wasn't obvious to them, right? But abundance is like, yes, I'll buy whatever. So
people are so attracted to that.
So we put it all out now.
Yeah.
We use spray bottles, but we should show this. This is our crop plan.
Wow.
We should clean this up more, but so this is we actually had a way bigger version of it, but we've probably switched it 5 times this year.
Yeah, we've
just from
again a work in progress. We've got to streamline this whole process, but we'll get there.
But we have all the beds kind of laid out here. So we got 32 beds. This is one half of the garden, the north side, and then this is the south side, separated by a black line there. But yeah, so we have the dates. So we have every week is kind of a block all the way through, and then you can see how long each crop is in the bed for. And I look at this at the start of every week, and then I'll write down, I'll go from here to see, hey, this week I actually have to seed some or start my lettuce in trays this week because it's the week of August 19th to 25th. And then next week I'm going to be doing beets and chard. And then once I look at that at the start of the week, I move over here. And this is where I put down what I'm going to do that day. So I'll put it down right away. So
Are you able to read it?
Sometimes. Yeah, my handwriting is not great, so I can read it. Mike can kind of read it. Pretty obvious. But yeah, so we've crossed out here because things always change. I transplanted the beets like a week early because they were not looking good. And I'm like, I'll put them in the ground and then I think they'll survive, and they have. But yeah, so then we can look at this even after at the year end, and you can see it very clearly in a calendar versus like notes or whatever, like on those crop notes. So you see dates, but you can't imagine it. But here you can see everything. And then we just have bed numbers, and then planted carrots, seeded beets, keep track. And then if I end a bed or pull it out, then I time it for the 2 weeks I'll put flame weed now. And then I won't miss it, because flame weeding is pretty important to time that right. And then if I've seeded something, I say, hey, lettuce usually germinates in 2-3 days. That's when I'll write 2-3 days later, I'll put flame weed. And then if I've BCS'd or something, then it keeps track. And then that way, honestly, before we had the calendar, I would forget stuff all the time. Like, oh, the carrot germinated, we can't flame weed now. And then that's going to be a tough time weeding that bed. So having it on a calendar, being able to see is really nice, just for the headspace as well.
And this was really just like our initial way of kind of records keeping and keeping an eye on the big picture. But already for next year, like we're kind of planning to change this, which is clunky. And every time you adjust your schedule, you've got to print out a new schedule and everything else. We're hoping to get it like a giant magnetic whiteboard, so then you can have like a standard length for, okay, your carrot crop is 4 weeks. You have your piece of paper that says carrots on it, and it has magnets
or
on
little plastic blocks, like when you learn math, and then have those chunks.
So then you can set up a whole schedule that you can see quickly for the whole season, and then but it's more easily modifiable if your schedule changes, which it always does. You can just very quickly modify it and just keep going. But again, we kind of had to take a step to see, okay, this doesn't work so well, let's change it for next year, and slowly, gradually get better and better at this.
That's what I like about you guys. You're just like, we're doing it, and then we adjust.
Right.
It's almost a must, though.
That's what you need to do. Let's start a project.
It's been the hardest mental transition for me because I'm a bit of a perfectionist, so I want to do things right the first time. But
sometimes
you got to give yourself time to grow and learn and everything else.
So the reason we did this is because we noticed that water would kind of sit here, and then these timers, which are right under here, they are technically waterproof, but not foolproof water, like sitting in a pond. So we elevated them just with Mike's old fire place,
fireplace stones.
And then we have 2 different timers. We originally got these guys, but 3 of them got waterlogged because it was sitting in a puddle. So then we decided these guys, I think, are a little bit more waterproof.
I don't know if they're more waterproof, but what we like about these ones is that we can do more water cycles per day.
Oh yes.
Which we really like. If we want to be able to water, say 2 half-hour chunks, we can do it with that.
That's why we specifically have this one for the tomatoes. For down there, we have the tomatoes on there because we only do it for 10 minutes on increments, and then we can do 3 of those in a day and have that set to a timer, where these guys can just do a one-off hour per day.
That's
or
right.
whatever. But you can only do 1 cycle versus the rainbird can do 3.
I like the system.
But that keeps the water off.
And overall, our irrigation system is very simple. We just have a timer for each set of sprinklers, and we've just got the wobbler sprinklers. They work really well. We've got drip tape in the hoop house, but then a timer sort of for each irrigation zone, so we can irrigate separately. We are dealing with, in this specific garden location, we're dealing with a little bit of lack of flow because we've got only a 3/4 inch line feeding this. So we have to time everything separately, and it's a little bit of a hassle. But
because you need a certain amount of pressure for the wobblers to work.
Yeah.
But yeah, like this one has it set to, like we water at 9 a.m. for 10. Oh, it's off right now, but if you go to the auto, then we have 3 different water cycles. One's at 9, it'll show there, and then one's at 10, so 9 for 10 minutes, 10 a.m. for 10 minutes, and then 11 for 10 minutes, and that's it. But then if it's a cloudy day, then we're probably gonna only go once. Versus if it's a really sunny day, we'll do 2 or 3 cycles. But we've also had a ton of rain, and the rain kind of seeps into the ground, and we don't need to water. So
You want to shut that back off so it doesn't water at 11?
yes, good.
But I like these because a lot of people, like a lot of farmers are thinking about automation.
Right.
Sometimes it's expensive.
Yeah.
But I like this.
This is a simple and
Yeah.
inexpensive solution.
Exactly. It's like
There are systems where you can connect to your controllers on your phone, stuff like that.
and sometimes it works.
Right.
It's
Right.
working well, but when you start,
When you start, there's nothing wrong
Keep
with
it
doing
simple.
something like this.
exactly.
Yeah.
Keep it simple.
For sure.
The roll-ups also, like, is it hard for you to manage them? Like,
Sometimes.
Most of the time, like now that we're kind of in the summer, we're not so worried about temperature. We just crank them right up. But part of the reason for the hoop house, the reason we put it here is because, of
Yep.
course, clay holds water, and that's not super good for tomatoes. So we're trying to control how much water gets in here. But if it's like a driving rain, then and we forget to roll the sides down, for example, then it's going to get a bunch of water in. If temperature all of a sudden climbs or drops, then we don't often have that granular control with just the roll up, the manual roll up sides.
Yep.
So it could be really beneficial.
We have
to automate
talked
that.
about automating that. I mean, Mike is supposed to close them during the night, but there's every once in a while I show up to work in the morning and it's wide open. So
And
it's a lot
it's
to
tough
think
to remember, right? So
that's just life. Like during a normal routine, yeah, I have no problem remembering. But if I'm out for the evening and I come home at 9:30 and oh, you forget the greenhouse.
yeah. The biggest advantage though there's many advantages to having this hoop house, greenhouse, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
But the one that's been very noticeable is that we always used to deal with hornworm, which was they're the worst. They're huge, and then they can eat half a plant in a day.
Yeah, they can
crazy.
decimate
They can
a plant. Yeah.
But then the hornworm it's like the moth that lays the larva is nocturnal, so it only flies around at night. So if you close your greenhouse
You're right.
at night, you
won't
don't
get
deal
it.
with hornworm,
That's
and we
right.
haven't. Like last 2 years we had tons,
Yeah.
and this year we have none. So
Yeah.
it worked.
Yeah.
That's it.
And then just heat. But yeah, we did this pretty standard
Yep.
to what the masterclass shows.
Yep.
Last year we did them on like the trellising a little bit different because we didn't have a greenhouse to hang them from, but we did T-posts with like hog panel and kind of went off that. But this has been way better. We have the wire cable kind of attached and looped on each of the, what are those guys called?
Purlins.
Purlins. And yeah, hanging this was actually way quicker than I thought, because when you start you're like 400 of these little things that I gotta tie, but it went pretty quick. And then once or twice, or once a week I'll come in and prune and trellis them, which I just wrap them around like this guy could get wrapped around maybe once. But it's definitely, I don't think it's super necessary to do it every week. So sometimes if you're busy, I do it in 2 weeks or so. But they do need to get pruned quite a bit. Tomatoes love to grow way too much foliage. But then yeah, we just recently took off the bottoms. All the branches, they're kind of dying already. I think tomato plants kind of self-prune a little bit. But that helps with airflow, and then you don't get as much of this, which I think is
makes a big difference.
fungus. So, and tomatoes, honestly.
But at this time of the year, honestly, it's really not that bad.
Yeah, we don't have to worry too much about. They're all pretty dry.
Yeah, and I mean, similar to everything else that we've had on this farm, it's been pretty steep learning curve for the tomatoes as well. You'll see a lot of fruit here that has yellow shoulder disorder, which means that the top sort of third of the tomato doesn't really ripen. We've had a lot of cracking, but we're learning as we go. The transplants had a pretty rough start when we planted them because the ground was really wet. Clay holds moisture and we had a very wet spring. So I think that caused root rot and that made it more difficult for the plants to take up nutrients. But then next year it's like, hey, okay, well, let's do raised beds so that the transplants pick up a little bit better, and let's amend our soil prior to putting transplants in. All these things that it's like, we're first year market gardeners. We're just kind of diving into it. We're learning what's important and we're making adjustments as we go. So
yeah, you can see like in the tomatoes, the cracking. That's just the different, like the amount of water that's coming in. When it rains, they take in too much of that water and then split. So that's why like having raised beds and not putting your hoop house in the bottom of a field where it's gonna pool would be advantageous for you.
But that you can move it.
Yeah, so this hoop house is a mobile hoop house, which is pretty cool because then we can have the tomatoes in here for as long as we can possibly get them to grow, and then we can start crops for winter like carrots and our lettuce and maybe beets, some kale, bok choy, I don't know. We can start those guys out in the field. They can already get started while our tomatoes are still growing in the hoop house, and then when the tomatoes are done, we move it over the already existing crop, and we've got a head start, and then we can go. Probably we're planning to go till the end of December. We move it with the tractor.
With a tractor,
so it's on like skis.
Yeah.
The kind of, and then we attach the tractor to each side, and then that end you can roll up if it's going over existing crops. We can roll up the plastic and move it over. Yeah, move it over the future lettuce and carrot beds and beets that will grow till end of December.
Yeah.
We haven't fully figured out. Actually, we're not even going to try to go through the year quite yet.
Right.
Through the whole winter, but this will be a start for sure. There are some nice looking tomatoes.
Of course. How do they work at the market?
It's interesting.
Honestly,
actually,
this year hasn't.
We haven't sold a lot of tomatoes, and when we go to markets with all the farmers there, people aren't selling a lot of tomatoes. So it kind of takes the pressure off of us to figure out tomatoes right away. There's something that as we go forward, we're going to grow primarily for probably CSAs and restaurants, stuff like that, rather than just offering them at market.
And we thought maybe it's because most people, if they're gonna do their own backyard garden, like I know almost anyone has their tomato plant, right?
Yeah.
So I think that might be it.
Yeah.
But that's really because a lot of market gardeners, like they just fill these huge greenhouses of tomatoes, and it's the best sellers.
Yeah, I know. We kind of got that. But
for us,
that's funny.
and in this specific region, for whatever reason,
it's more rural. I don't.
Yeah, who knows? But not a lot of tomatoes are selling. But I mean, it's pretty easy to adjust because we can see what people are after, and we can just grow more of that.
They love beets and they love lettuce, and carrots always sell pretty well too.
So. And again, if we tried to get it perfect the first time, we would fail because we had to get to market to learn these things. Your market research has to start somewhere, right?
And you adapt, you adjust.
Exactly. Yeah. I didn't really understand why it was so important to manage things so tightly, to try maximize the use of land, because I was like, oh, we've got 100 acres, we can spread out. But then I just clued in like a couple weeks ago, walking, exactly. If you're walking an extra 5 steps to get to a bed, well, that's 5 steps that you're walking over and over and over and over. So if you can keep things tight and keep your production intensive, basically, then you're going to be walking less and you have less area to cultivate, less area to manage, and it's going to be better.
Less wasted time, really.
Yeah, that's right.
because we don't want to.
And the washing station.
Yes, what a beauty.
Yeah, it is a beauty. Like, how did you like envision this? How did you make it happen?
Well, it started off with the sea container,
Right.
which we decided we needed because you can't keep veggies fresh without having, it's our cold room. That's kind of what it's for.
Yeah, so we modified the sea container to have a cooler inside. We insulated the walls. We used the cool button and an air conditioner to get it cold. That's where it started. We watched YouTube videos initially, just found YouTube videos of wash stations, and we were like, okay, what do we need? How quickly can we set this up? What's kind of the minimum requirements to get to get veggies to market? And this is kind of what we did.
The ground, I would say, is not ideal. The floor. It's chicken slat.
It works well because it allows the moisture to drain away.
Yeah.
But it's not ideal. Concrete would be better.
Yeah, totally. But then for our first year, we started with just this guy, which is 3 fans to try and dry the lettuce. Or anything. So then you can move it.
It's on pulleys.
You can move it down. This was my genius invention.
Can you show it to us?
So we would normally have that drying rack there underneath it, full of lettuce, and then
Which one is it?
it's that one. So we'd have a drying rack about where my hands
This
are.
guy here.
Yeah.
Full of greens, and we'd spread the greens out, turn all the fans on, and try to dry off the greens that way.
But
And
Honestly, I like that. It's really like, these are fans and
there's for sure a YouTube video that you can find that kind of details this, and we're like, hey, that's pretty easy to implement.
yes.
So
that's what we started off, and the biggest issue is if it's a high humidity day,
It doesn't dry.
and then it takes forever to dry your lettuce, and then you waste a lot of time. We kind of dried all kinds of stuff, like the Swiss chard, even in the bunches, we would put it on here. But it takes a lot of time. You can use this as like a backup, like if you take it out of the spinner and you put it on here, let it go.
But even then, I don't think we've used this once this year.
No.
Once
I used it just to try and keep the lettuce on the tray so the wind wouldn't blow it off, so I tried to like keep it on, but it didn't really work that great either. But yeah, so we started off with just like this guy that it's just all we built by hand, and then that, but then we upgraded this year. Actually a lot of this was in the master class. The bubbler, which works brilliantly. We clean mainly just our lettuce mix with the bubbler. We fill it up to about 60. We have our Sanidate right there. And then, bubbler, we put it on for 5 minutes. And then once it's done, we dump all the fresh greens in here and then just scoop it out with these fish baskets.
Yeah, whatever they are originally,
Yeah, but we got these from Dubois.
Yeah.
And then
Are they sponsoring this video?
Yeah,
Good, Dubois. Listen up, Dubois.
Yeah, no, Dubois has been great. Then we put her in the salad spinner. This is like the best thing to have if you're gonna do a lot of lettuce, because we made it way quicker. Because number one, you can't have your lettuce soaking wet, and if you're gonna pack it into your bag, the shelf life is gonna be 2 days.
Yeah.
Whereas if you spin it well, have it dry, we have our lettuce bags can last like 3 weeks.
Well,
fresh.
3 weeks might be a stretch, but people are saying that a week and a half to 2 weeks, they're still eating lettuce out of it, which is
And
great.
people are so surprised.
Yeah.
Because the stuff that you're used to is almost already done. Like there's a few bad leaves in it if you're getting a mix from the grocery store, versus if you're harvesting fresh. We didn't know that it was going to last that long. It's just the way of fresh veggies that are packed properly. It's amazing.
Yeah.
So
Did you build this one yourself?
yes. So this I spent some time in the barn trying to fool around. Not an electrician, but it worked out. I was so happy because I did a lot of work. I messed up a completely brand new washing machine on Mike's money. So
Well, he didn't mess it up. He built the
but
spinner out of it.
once
right?
I took the control board off and ripped all the wires, I'm like, it better work now. So yeah, like I put up the box on the back that hooks up to the motor and the drain as well. And then I kind of hooked up this wire's hooked up to a timer that we can, it's just the motor, it turns on the motor and then the pump, and that's it. It's super simple. And spins the lettuce for 5 minutes sometimes. I would say we usually do 2-minute cycle, and then we kind of rough it up a little bit and then do another 2.5 minutes or so. But it's kind of crazy how fast it goes.
Yeah, without that, I don't know what we would do. It's been really.
This guy's super slow.
It's been really essential to, it's kind of like to make our lettuce washing very efficient. And then people always ask at market, oh, is this bag washed? Can I eat it? And it's like,
you can't really.
And all our lettuce is washed, and people ask, and people want that, right? So it's been a huge asset.
But then, so once it's done spinning, I shouldn't have put it so long. Would not recommend this. That hurts. Once it's done spinning, we take it out. We'll say this is it. Take it out and then either dump it on here, which is, and then we'll pack it into plastic bags. We have, do you want to show the sealer?
Oh yeah, we've just got the tape.
What is that? Who's that from? Uline?
That was from Uline, yeah.
Are we allowed to say names? Yeah, we pack it into bags here and then seal them, put them in our coolers, and then.
You weigh them or something?
Yeah, so we have a weigh scale as well. Yeah. Yeah, weighing I guess is pretty important.
I think probably our lettuce is the only thing we actually weigh right now.
Yeah.
Because we want to make sure every bag is pretty consistent. Otherwise, we let people choose, like, if they want a certain bundle of carrots or a certain bundle of beets, then that's totally fine.
But yeah, we'll say, like, I'm dumping lettuce, it's sitting on here, and then Mike goes
filling bags, and then we just toss the bag on the scale. Sometimes we'll just toss it on, and to be efficient, we just grab another bag, keep loading, check the weight, and as long as the weight's good, we just, with lettuce in here, of course, spin it, tape it. Oh, wow. Cut that. Our tape machine's not working.
But that's pretty easy to get.
There we go.
There we go.
So that's what it's supposed to do. Tapes it. It's not entirely sealed, but it's sealed enough that the bag keeps air in it. Yep. And we like that because we want the air in the bag so that we can have the lettuce leaves loose so it doesn't compact at market.
And the other thing is you can put a lot of lettuce in there, but it doesn't look like a lot.
Yeah.
So having like a bit of air, it just shows that you can actually, it's worth buying a $5, looks like a little bag of lettuce, but it is quite a bit. You can pack tons in there. So people are always surprised.
We had that our first year. We were selling greens, and we tried to pack too much into a bag to kind of like give more value to the customer, but they didn't realize how much lettuce was actually in the bag. So you'd get this little bag of lettuce for $10 and people were like, no way, like that's not worth it. When we always had it, when we dumped that bag out ourselves,
we fill up a massive bowl.
This is a lot of lettuce. So we're trying to create value for the customer, but it was just this little bag of densely packed lettuce for $10, and no one knew how much lettuce was in it. So instead, we kind of went the opposite route now. We have a little bit of a bigger bag, we fill it with air so that we can see the loose leaves inside, and people can kind of they can see exactly what they're getting for their money.
Better grasp of how much is in there. Yeah.
And it's worked much better for us.
Like chips.
True, and to protect it a little bit.
Right.
So.
Yeah, of course.
But like that's the greens. But then for most of the root veggies, we'll put them on here. We'll clean them with this guy. And then that's just a classic. Oh no, get the camera wet. If we spray all the root veggies, and we do make sure, like once we've sprayed, we'll wring them out a little bit, get all the water off. We usually, I think we'll pack all the clean ones here first.
Generally,
and then, swing a cooler, and then pack them in there. We count everything. We mark how much we've harvested, and that's simple, really.
And how do you what's your system with your coolers and the cold house? Like, do you have like a way to know what's in there?
We're working on that.
It's all in here. Yeah, we don't have much of a system other than like once they're packed, we put them in here right away. We pull them in there.
Yeah.
We keep them open for a little bit to get the cold air in there as quick as possible, and then close them to keep the moisture in, because that's what keeps your veggies fresh. And then when we're done at the end of market day, we'll drop them off. We clean them out with the sprayer, and then we sanitize them so they don't grow any bacteria as well.
All the coolers here are all sanitized, ready to be packed
And dried.
Yeah. It's not a perfect system yet, but it's kind of a step in the right direction. Honestly, if we had to do it again, I don't know if we would buy so many coolers, because the green totes that we have there under the table, if you're storing them in a cooler and you have a lid that closes, it's almost just as well, because when we get to market, we're putting basically
They're all out anyways.
all the produce out on the table anyways. So the coolers are emptied very quickly at market. Coolers can still be beneficial if you are like moving lots of vegetables kind of a longer distance.
Yeah, if you're doing delivery, I think then you're going to need coolers.
Yeah. All our markets are quite local, so it's hardly worth it for us to do coolers.
30 minutes.
Yeah. But again, it's something that we didn't really know before we started. So we had to take a step. And we're learning as we go, which is great.
Do we want to take a peek in here?
Yeah.
We built this not last winter, the winter before that. So 2 years ago, we cut a hole for the AC unit, and then that's set up to a cool bot. So we have it set to 40 degrees?
40 or 41 or 42, somewhere in that
Which
area.
is 2 or 3 degrees
Yeah.
Celsius. It's got electrical because we wanted to put the freeze dryer in here, but the freeze dryer doesn't like the cold. But then this is where we store all the, like right away once we've harvested something, we put it in here, and then when we're gonna clean it in the afternoon, we take it out, wash it, and put it right back, and then it stays good for, it probably would stay good for like a week or so in here, but we always harvest the day before and then it gets sold. But it's just a simple sea container with, you can kind of see how thick it is, the insulation. It's just like foam board.
Yeah, it's 4 inches of foam board.
And then we had to frame it in first so we could attach the foam board to something. And then we ended up sealing it all properly with plywood that has plastic coating on the one side. So this is plywood with plastic on it.
So it was a bit of an expensive build.
Yeah, that's right.
Little bit, but the benefit of it is that we can come in here at the end of the season or anytime during the season, wash it all out, sanitize it all, and it's
because
clean.
wood is not great to get wet. So
and again, I wouldn't say that this is entirely necessary for a starting market gardener. There's other ways to do it. Even buying used coolers off of Kijiji or Facebook Marketplace or something like that. There's a growing, it seems to be growing market for it. But this is a step we chose to take, and I think it will benefit us in the long run, because we actually plan to move our garden space a little ways away, still on the same property, but we've kind of went through the problems with our space now, and we can just pick up this whole sea container, move it over, very simple and easy. So I think that like our decision to build in a sea container will benefit us.
And you need lighting. I don't know what we do without the lights.
You need lighting, yeah.
Good point. A lot of like cooler, they don't put lights in there.
Yeah.
It makes it pretty tough.
Well, that was amazing. Now can we go see the pigs?
Absolutely.
First talk, you talk about the full circle, and I feel like this is really part of it.
This is part of it, that's right. The livestock are, to me, an essential component. So just explaining quickly about the pigs, we have this 12, 15 acre parcel of forest But bedrock is very close to the surface, so it's not worth it to clear this land and crop it. And of course, you get all the diversity in a forest. It's good diversity. So, well, what do you do with a forest that's kind of overgrown? It's on bedrock, not great soil. Well, one of the benefits is that we have a lot of masting trees. So we've got acorns and hickory nuts and walnuts and all those things. Pigs love those nuts. And especially since the nuts drop in the fall when the pigs are starting to fatten up, it flavors their meat, flavors the fat. Wow. It's fantastic. So I said previously that Joel Salatin was one of my inspirations.
Yeah.
We took inspiration from him for putting pigs in the forest. We moved them to kind of a fresh paddock area every 10 to 12 days.
Yeah.
And they're doing a really good job of clearing out the nasty undergrowth. They fatten themselves up on whatever they can find. And it's some of the best pork that I've tasted, and our customers love it. It's just one more thing that we can bring to market. As we continue to develop, we're hoping to also do grass-fed beef, and then also start overwintering animals in a barn, feeding them hay, whatever else.
Yep.
And then we can use that manure pack, compost that manure, and use it to fertilize the garden. So we're kind of creating this system on farm. We'll never be completely self-sufficient, and I don't want to pursue that.
Yeah.
But just using that fertility from the animals, from the composted animal manure to grow vegetables, I think it's kind of a beautiful thing.
Yeah, it is.
So that's one thing that sets us apart. We're trying to create that full system.
Yep. Using
animals, trying to mimic nature with how we raise our animals.
Yep.
I love doing it. I love the animals. It's really cool to see the pigs in the forest. It's where they're supposed to be, and it shows.
Like this morning when we arrived, it was just like they were running everywhere.
Yeah.
It was just nice.
Yeah.
Well, Mike, thank you so much for hosting us.
Yeah, thank you for this opportunity.
It was amazing to see all you've accomplished.
Yeah,
you and Joshua was like really nice. So thank you very much, man.